All right. Welcome, friends. So happy to see you again for First Wednesdays, our community Ayurveda workshop. And as our topics are unfolding around this greater conversation of Ayurvedic self-healing, but also as it relates to the mind, the emotions, healing past, resolving past pains and traumas, we're kind of zooming out to look at the whole holistic view over the course of these months together. And today we're going to dive into the role of digestion and how specifically practices you can take away from our class today to support your digestive health, to give you more of that energy that you're looking for, and really to create stability and a foundation for regulation in the nervous system. And this is what creates the inner calmness and safety so that you can actively and more easily resolve and digest past pains and traumas and come back into a more embodied sense of wholeness and connection to your true self. And so the fire of our inner digestion and our, digestive fire, as it's called in Ayurveda, which we translate this term Agni, which is a bigger, all-encompassing term, the way that the fire in nature, the sun and fire transforms and warms life around us, creates photosynthesis for plants and gives them energy and provides food. In the same way, that fire inside of our body digests, absorbs, assimilates nutrients, balances our blood sugar, balances our hormones, creates a healthy flow, dynamic flow of neurotransmitters. It literally is the thing inside of us that creates positivity and a sunny disposition or mental clarity and alertness. So the opposites of these, mental fog or feeling unclear or feeling dull or having poor memory or feeling fatigue and clouded mind. These are all signs also that the digestive fire is low. So the digestive fire also digests all of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and it has to digest past experiences. And it digests everything that comes in through our five senses. So all sensory input, meaning everything you see, everything you hear, everything you taste, touch, and smell is digested from this energetic aspect of Agni, or your digestive fire. So if the gut is starting to have symptoms of food sensitivities, bloating, sluggish bowels, low energy, if you're having a difficult time sleeping or, accessing creativity or just clear, decisive actions in your day, or if you feel overwhelmed and triggered or depleted by the world around you, these are all signs that the digestive fire needs a little pick-me-up and it needs a reset. And wherever you are in the world, whether it's more of the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, we're going through a season of change at the time of this class, at the time of this recording. We are in spring here in the United States. And for our Australia friends and southern hemisphere friends, they're also transitioning in autumn. And so these two seasons of transition are great times to press the reset button on your gut. And really any time of year, you can press the reset on your gut, on your reset button on your gut, if you're feeling any of the things I just described. And then long-term, if you are in a program of care where you're maybe going through some kind of counseling or therapy to work through various traumas or resolve them, well, applying the things that we're going to talk about today is going to make that more stable. It's going to create stable ground for transformation on a psychological, emotional, spiritual level. It creates the foundation so that transformation can take root in your body. So it transitions from being a mental thought, like, oh, I know I had this negative experience with my mom when I was a kid, but I've forgiven her. But on some level, there's still some part of me, unconscious to me, in my subconscious, that feels deprived, nurtured, or feels shamed or ridiculed, right? And I still kind of engage with my partner, with my friends, or with the world around me in some way, in this, tense way. When we use the term embodiment, we want to, there's three kind of phases. There's this conceptual knowing or cognitive awareness around a concept where we are aware, we want to forgive, let go. We've on many levels been able to make amends with maybe negative experiences from the past. But then there's a whole another level where it seeps into your subconscious and it no longer takes up bandwidth in the background, or it becomes more of your sleeping thoughts. Your belief systems have now transformed to really embody a sense of peacefulness and neutrality around any situations of the past. And then the deepest stage is the somatic stage, where it's fully embodied and it becomes who you are. And so whatever that is for you, that peacefulness that you're after, that mental clarity, that, whatever, that living your true path, whatever that is for you. These are the three stages. And the digestive aspect, our Agni, is the pillar or the keystone or the cornerstone to support this deeper embodiment. So this is why we're laying this foundation throughout this class and this time together. So we'll begin today with a brief practice, the same practice that we do each time, each class, each month, with a little bit of breath work and a little chanting breath work, where we just connect with sound and inner calmness. I'm going to read, I usually read a poem, but I'm going to read out of the same book, but it's a poetic interpretation of the word Agni. So we're going to just dive into a little bit of a contemplative practice for a moment, just contemplating this inner fire. And then we've got a lot of beautiful content to cover today. So you'll want to grab your notebooks and write once we get to that place. But first, let's create a calm, receptive environment. And you can always listen to the recording, so don't worry about writing it all down. And I definitely encourage and welcome all of your questions and reflections and insights as we go. And I will check those periodically. But feel free to write them in the chat whenever they surface for you. Okay, so let us begin with our practice. So just coming to a comfortable seat, and it's nice to start with a lengthened spine, maybe rolling your shoulders up, back, and down, just to release a little tension out of that place that we all tend to hold it. Maybe twisting your spine gently, side to side, right to left, very gently and slowly. Maybe turning your chin up and down. Any little movements, just so you feel centered in your seat. Feeling your hips in the chair, in that earthy support beneath you. Maybe your feet flat on the ground, or whatever seating position is most comfortable for you today. And then bring your awareness, of course, to the breath. With every exhale, start to feel your breath elongate. And as you elongate your breath, you start to draw your navel towards the spine, just gently, so that on the inhale, the belly just relaxes. And exhale, navel moves towards the spine, just a little bit longer now. And you'll notice if you can make like a little bit of a breathy sound on the back of your throat, it'll help you elongate your breath because you'll hear that sound and it almost sounds like the ocean. It's kind of like you're fogging up a mirror, but you're doing it with your lips closed. So just take a moment with those breaths and see if you can make a little bit of that ocean sound and see how it calms and soothes your breath. And allows it to slow and deepen without needing to force or push anything. And from that place, we'll transition into a 3-part breath. So it might help for you to bring your hands to your belly if that's comfortable. And the first part is breathing into the low belly. So as you inhale, you want to feel the lower belly expand. And as you exhale, it draws towards the spine. And you're going to inhale, expand, lower belly, and now into the middle rib cage. So part 1, part 2. So inhale, belly, ribs. Exhale, ribs, belly. Inhale, belly, ribs. Exhale, ribs and belly. Now all 3 parts. Inhale, belly, ribs, and now upper chest. Exhale, chest, ribs, belly. All 3 parts now. Sipping air into the lower belly, middle ribs, upper chest. Exhale, upper chest, middle ribs, lower belly. One more time, separate like this, sipping breath into the lower, middle, upper, emptying, upper, middle, lower. Inhale. Exhale. Good, you probably did that one extra time since I was jabbering. So let's do it smoothly now. So inhaling smooth without separating. So inhaling belly, ribs, chest, just as full as you can sip that air in, and then emptying from top to bottom, chest, ribs, and belly. Inhale, bottom to top, belly, ribs, chest. Exhale, chest, ribs, belly. A couple more times on at your own pace. Hopefully you're just going at your own pace, and whatever you need to pause, you can always come back to normal breath. Sometimes you'll yawn. That's okay. And last one, inhaling smoothly, belly, ribs, chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, and belly. Take a moment of pause and just notice the effect. So we'll engage with that breath again, but now on the exhale, you're going to make a humming sound, just like a humming bee that's buzzing from bloom to bloom. And on that exhale, you're going to make the longest humming sound that you can. We'll do 3 long, slow, deep breaths. So exhaling all the air out to begin. Inhale, belly, ribs, and chest. And exhale with a hum, 3 long, luxurious times. Pause and notice. And then the final breath practice for today is a mantra breath practice where we chant 3 syllables, ha, ri, H-A-R-I, and om. Om is really 3 sounds, ah, oo, and So I put it in the chat if you need to look at it, but it's pretty straightforward. Hari Om. So you'll do the same thing where you fill up belly, ribs, and chest, and then exhale with the longest possible sound of Hari Om. Go ahead and begin. Ha. 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 And pause and notice. Agni, fire, sacrificial fire, the god of fire, the fire of the stomach, digestive faculty, gastric fluid, bile, gold. The yukti here is the relationship of the body and flame. It helps to know that biological life is fire. Our bodies burn at almost 100 degrees day and night, even if the environment is cool. Each cell is a little flame, a tiny hearth cooking up the sustenance of life and transmuting the elements into energy. The process of transmutation is called fire. The sun is fire. Our bodies are fire. The sun shines on the oceans, forests, and farms, and the fiery sunshine is absorbed by the plants through the magic of photosynthesis. When we eat the plants or the products of something that eats the plants, we absorb this energy and turn it into heat and energy to move with in a continual dance. Get into this practice very gently, tiny step by tiny step. If you like candles, spend a few minutes appreciating one. If you like the warmth of the sun on your skin on a winter afternoon, cherish that. If you have access to a fireplace, make yourself cozy, watch the flickers, listen to the crackle, absorb the warmth. Over a period of months, become intimate with flame as it relates to your body. I took several months getting to know this sutra phase by phase, then memorized the first paragraph. I am immersed in the flame as my mantra. I let the words and images and sensations they invoked roll through me very slowly in meditation for half an hour, morning and evening. If you are called to this practice today, the flame of the soul is already here. It is a relief to snuggle up with it. This is a chance to rest, be at peace with, and inspired by the flame of life. So may this conversation about Agni, the flame, the fire of life, inspire and enkindle our souls, our spirits, our actions into greater and greater alignment with our true nature. So let us dive into deepening this relationship with the sun every day. So Ayurveda reminds us that we are, as I'm looking out my window right now, it's a sunny, beautiful spring day. It's the warmest today and tomorrow, like the warmest days we've had in several months. And I'm seeing the effect of the sun on the grass, on the cherry trees that are coming into blossom, on the plants that we have in our garden, the plants that we're starting in our greenhouse, and this bright, brilliant green grass, the property across the way. It's like a lime green, like so bright. And all of nature, from an Ayurvedic perspective, it's showing us that all of nature resides and lives inside of us and in each and every cell. So then we are a macrocosm to the we are a microcosm to the macrocosm of all life. And the macrocosm of all life and all existence and all of the universe and all of the earth is that same is analogous to the microcosm of us. And in the same way, the whole of us is a macrocosm to the microcosm of our internal fire and every single microscopic cell in our body. And so the cells of our body, the organs of our body, the systems of our body follow suit to the whole. So there's actually a hierarchy in the body around this central fire. So the central fire is called Jhattara Agni, and Jhattara Agni lives in the stomach. And this Jhattara Agni is the central leader of all the other Agnis. So every single organ that you have has a governing Agni fire. And then every tissue, there's 7 bodily tissues, they each have their own central fire, and smaller and smaller and smaller. So these organs, these tissues, and then every single cell has a center of fire. And so in order to positively influence every cell in your body and all of your organs, in order to have optimal balanced health, we want to support this central digestive fire, this Jhattara Agni, which means so much more than digestion, as we mentioned in our opening today. So a healthy digestive fire, a healthy, optimized Jhattara Agni gives us mental alertness, clarity, a positive can-do attitude, that sunny disposition. It sees the light side of things, and not even just the light side of things. It's able to discern and see reality for what it is without being clouded by emotional influences or things that distort perception. A balanced Jhattara Agni has you feel comfortable after you eat, gives you a normal appetite. So you're hungry naturally, no more than every 4 to 6 hours. And you experience hunger, not through taste or craving. You experience hunger as a hollow, empty sensation in your gut, which means that the body has released enzymes and acids into your stomach. The digestive system is empty and it's hollow, and it's ready to take something in and break it down. So its job, the stomach's job, is to break down the first input of macromolecules, and hopefully you're chewing them really well and not get overtaxing the stomach. So you want to chew really well, mix it with your saliva, because digestion starts in the mouth. And then the stomach's job is to pour all of these really sharp enzymes and acids, really hot enzymes and acids, and churn and break down this food bolus into complete liquid microchyle parts. And then that liquid enters into the small intestines, and it needs to be microscopic by that time, because you have these little microscopic villi that line these little finger-like parts of your small intestine, and these tiny little microscopic parts that have been broken down by the stomach just travel along the microvilli, and that's where nutrients are absorbed. Most of the nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream, and then those nutrients are delivered to your bodily tissues. And then it continues, whatever is left after all of the digestion and absorption of nutrients in the small intestine. Now it enters the colon, and waste products are packed there. Hydration and liquid is astringed from that matter, and minerals are also absorbed from the colon. Waste is brought back to the colon, and then it is packed in the distal part, the ending part of the colon, and that is essentially creates feces for your bowel movement the next morning or the next moment that it needs to be released. So throughout this process, if there's discomfort that's happening, or if we're eating too quickly, or if we're eating foods that are not supportive for the season that we're in or for our particular body type, then or we're just so ravenously hungry, or we're eating for emotional reasons, then we're putting that food in our mouth, maybe not chewing it all the way. And now your stomach has a really hard job. So it has to, but it only has a certain amount of time to break down whatever you're putting in it. So it would be like you're trying to build a bonfire or a fire in the fireplace, and you're just putting a huge log on top of a matchstick. It's like a little matchstick is never going to light a log. So what do you have to do? You have to be gentle with that fire. You have to add kindling, and you have to add leaves and paper and things that really break down easily. And then the fire grows, and now you can put a bigger chunk of wood or a bigger log, denser log. So the fire has to build, and you have to be the one to coax it, because yeah, fire is a powerful element, but inside your body, in this Jhattara Agni, we need to honor it so that we're coaxing it. And when that's done well, so when Jhattara Agni is healthy and happy, you feel totally comfortable after you eat. There's no sense of heaviness. There's not excessive burping. There's not stomach discomfort. There's not bloating, gas, abdominal distension, hyperacidity. There's no repeated tastes that come up in burps or smells. There's not a bad taste in your mouth in between meals. And then overall, the body feels strong, has vigor and vitality, and eyesight is good. Your complexion is clear, and you have you radiate this healthy glow. You radiate a healthy glow about you. And then there's also a general satisfaction with meals. So you eat a meal and you just feel satiated, kind of like no matter what the meal is, like you feel pretty satiated and just comfortable. Not no matter what, but it's like, you know what the body needs, and you're comfortable with pretty simple meals. You're satisfied. You're not left with longings and cravings and right, those types of things. When Jhattara Agni is happy and balanced, you also have normal bowel movements. Normal bowel movement means it looks like a banana shape, width, length, and it happens every single morning. A banana comes out of you every morning, ideally right when you wake up, like right around sunrise. And if it needs to be prompted by coffee or smoking or food or some kind of laxative or senna tea or whatever, then that's showing that there's something off in the gut. There's something sluggish that's happening if it's not happening on its own. And then the other thing, when Jhattara Agni is really healthy and happy and thriving and balanced, you overall have a general sense of inner contentment. Emotionally, there's a contentment and a peacefulness. There's not an angst or, very large fluctuations, I guess you could say, an emotional experience. Now, none of this is to say or make the opposite of this wrong. This is just to understand, oh, wow, this is for you to be like, wow, so much of maybe what I'm experiencing actually comes back to this digestive fire, this concept of Agni. And I would take it further to say this Ayurvedic concept of Agni, because it's the most complete, holistic definition of digestive fire or gut health, because there are a lot of beautiful and empowering teachings out there in the holistic health world that are speaking about gut health and the microbiome and all of that, but they tend to be fairly narrow focused in one specific thing, and they miss the bigger whole. And so what I'm endeavoring to give you today is the bigger whole, and to start to see that it's not just about the food and it's not just about micronutrients, but it's rather about your greater relationship with the nature that exists inside of you, and the timing of things and the qualities of things, not just the substances that you're putting in. It has so much more to do with when and how you're combining them and how you're doing it, what your mindset is while you're engaging in that relationship with food, and how you're listening to your body and how you're interpreting those signals. So I'll rattle off the things that I sent you guys in the email. But the signs that you need to reset your gut for sure would be, and I said some of these already, but a sense of heaviness in the stomach, poor appetite, or you can never tell when you're hungry, or you're hungry at different times of the day. You have belching, or you taste food, you have a bad taste in your mouth. If you look at your tongue in the mirror and it looks like it has a film or a coating on it, or you generally have bad breath, or like I said, a bad taste in your mouth. If you experience constipation, meaning you're having a bowel movement less often than once every single morning, that's at least a banana, a healthy banana. If it's smaller pieces than that, or if it's less complete than that, then it's a sign of dehydration of the gut, constipation, the system's getting backed up. Or if you still have abdominal distension, burping, bloating, that kind of stuff, that could also actually be connected to constipation. So some people, even if they say, oh, I go to the bathroom every day, but the system's actually still backed up because there's still more that needs to leave the system than is even coming in with food, because it's backed up over years. And that could be emotional backup, that could be environmental toxins, it could be so many different things. It could just be incompatible food combinations, as we'll talk about, that have built up this residue in the system. So confusion, so constipation, or to the other side of the spectrum, loose stools, diarrhea. That means everything's moving too fast through the system. So the system's irritated and it's just trying to get rid of everything. So it kind of opens all the channels and floods everything out. And that creates an irritation, and that creates a malnutrition as well, because you never absorb the nutrients from the food. So there's an imbalance there. So if you're on either side of that spectrum, there's a sign that something's off and that you need to hit that reset button. So also mental confusion, indecisiveness, foggy mind, general sense of unhappiness or frustration, irritability with life, any kind of foul gas or really foul smelling bowel movements. These are all signs that there's toxins that have built up in the gut, and that Jhattara Agni is not happy. It's not operating optimally, and something needs to be reset. We already mentioned bloating, abdominal distension, and then overall sense of fatigue, weakness in the body, lethargy, any other kind of digestive disturbances like indigestion, nausea, also abdominal discomfort or pain, and even headaches or recurring headaches can be a sign that the gut fire is off. And just a dull kind of complexion, like looking pale, or just like you're losing that sparkle out of your skin. Also skin irritation issues, or like acne, like really consistent stuff where, a lot of like your pores are seeming really clogged. This also is the external skin also reflects the internal skin of the digestive system. And then overall sense of heaviness, sadness, depression, anxiousness, all of these emotional states also connect to Jhattara Agni. So what should we do about it then? So what does that mean? If these are some of the symptoms, some of the signs, then how do we create a healthy relationship with that fire inside? In addition to the things we heard in this beautiful poetic reading, contemplation reading of gazing at a candle and soaking up the sun and being near fire. Well, what are the other ways? So there's a sun cycle that our bodies are innately a part of. And that sun cycle happens every day. The sun rises and it comes to fullness in the sky, and then it sets. and we sleep. The sun goes to rest and we go to rest, and then it comes up again and we break the fast and have some breakfast, and then the sun moves through the sky. And so as that 24-hour cycle continues, it actually governs our digestive rhythms. It actually governs the systematic release of acids, enzymes, digestive factors in your body, in your gut. It also directly supports all the healthy microbiome and gut flora in your digestive tract. And those good bugs relate very much to this sun cycle. And they also relate to the foods that you eat. And they also relate to your moods and the ways that you approach food. So there's this dynamic dance that your body is doing every day that is a rhythm that you need to listen to and catch on to. Otherwise, everything is going to feel like you're swimming upstream. And what we really want is to make some gestures towards like paddling to a wave. And then we want to catch the wave and we want to ride that wave of health, which is a whole lot easier than trying to swim upstream and micromanage everything. Yeah, making sense so far? I don't see any questions yet, so I will keep going. Oh, hi Kumari. Hi Marilyn. Hi Pat, Shell. Oh, so happy to see all of you that popped in since my little screen was hidden. Yay. Okay, so let's get into just the specific. I want to make sure you all leave here with some tangible pieces to what that looks like. There's so much more theoretically that I could go into, but I think I'll allow the theoretical to display itself as we go through these things. Now, I wrote in the email that there was going to be 8 things. It might be more like 10, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just going to go into all the points. So I kind of look at, you might have like 2 columns in your notes, and these 2 columns are going to be the 10 things that destroy your Jhattara Agni, that destroy your digestion, that throw it off, that leave you in that first camp of sluggishness and stuckness and low internal fire. And then the other column are going to be the things to do instead. And these are the things that are boosting your digestion, that are stoking the Agni, that are increasing Agni fire, and that are overall supportive to the rhythms. Okay, so let me look at my list. All right, so let's start here. Let's start with timing, because we were just talking about these rhythms in nature and kind of catching the wave of health. So just visualize for a moment a horizon line. Like if you were looking at a circle that was a 24-hour clock. And if you're looking at this 24-hour clock, there's a horizontal line across it. And that's essentially where the sun is sitting on the horizon based on where you are on the earth. Okay, so when the sun comes up over that horizon and peaks up, this is the early morning sun. That sun hits your eyes and it starts a chemical reaction in your body. And that chemical reaction, it starts to bring your energy from internal to external. And it starts to prepare for your mental faculties start to turn on. You know, you don't jump out of bed alert. That's normal. It's like it's slowly waxing. right? You start to wake up, you start to feel clear. Hopefully you have some kind of practices that you do in the morning that are gentle to help you wake up, whether that's a little bit of breath work or a yoga practice or some kind of meditation, movement, prayer, that type of thing. So it kind of it stokes the mental fire in the productive direction for your day, a peaceful direction for your day. Some kind of practice that helps you connect to true self. And then at the same time, within the first couple hours of waking, depending on what time you're waking, of course, your blood sugar will start to burn up whatever fuel it had left over, and it starts to dip. And so you start to get hungry. Now that fire in the sky, the sun, Surya, is initiating these enzymatic reactions in your body and waking up the gut. One of the things, gosh, this isn't even on my list for today, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway, because it's a very common Ayurvedic practice. But one of the things that we do first thing in Ayurveda is take a sip of water. We keep water right next to the bed, so it's room temperature, or you can take a sip of warmer water that's heated up. And that flushes some of the healthy probiotic flora back into your gut. So you have two layers on your tongue when you wake up in the morning. The deepest layer that's like embedded between your taste buds, this is a layer of sticky, what's called ama. It's part of overnight while you were sleeping, your body was detoxifying and cleansing itself. It was going through a purification process. And so it will leave a little residue on the tongue because your mouth is part of your GI tract. And so there's a sticky layer that's called ama. And then there's a layer above it that's like a light layer, a loose layer. And those are actually healthy probiotics naturally on your tongue. So first thing out of bed, we take a sip of water, and that washes down the healthy probiotics back into your GI tract. And then the next thing that we do, one of the next things, first thing out of bed, is we scrape our tongue. So we use a stainless steel or a copper tongue scraper, and you scrape from back to front 7 times. And every time you'll see that sticky layer comes off. But what it also does is your tongue is a map of all of your internal organs. And so as you're scraping the tongue, it's pulling off that sticky but it's also activating all the digestive organs and helping them wake up and helping their energies come alive in alignment with the sun. So here's your first Ayurvedic tip. Then the next thing that we do is boil some water and put a squeeze of lime or lemon in it. And then you drink it, maybe 16 ounces, like a mug this size. If you're a really dehydrated kind of person, you can take more of that, but usually 8 to 16 ounces will do. And the hot water, it can be plain hot water, or if you put a squeeze of sour into it, the sour creates a puckering effect. You know, when you taste sour, it makes you pucker. Well, that sour puckering effect, it does the same thing in your gut, and it squeezes, it starts peristalsis. So the hot water hydrates, lubricates, dilates everything so that everything starts moving down. And then the sour gives you a little bit of that puckering effect, and it really supports the squeezing of everything along the GI tract, again, to effectively release and have your bowel movement. Now, most people in modern society sit on a toilet that is 90 degrees, and this is a horrible position for your colon, because if you ever see an animal in nature going to the bathroom, they tuck their tail under. And that's specific because there's a sphincter at the distal end of the colon, the rectum, that actually needs to be relaxed and opened. And when you're in a normal spinal position, it keeps it closed. So if you're in a 90-degree seat on the toilet, it's actually that sphincter is closed, and it's very hard to release the bowel movement completely. And what that results in over years and decades is fistula and hemorrhoids and potentially irritable bowel syndrome, all kinds of challenges with the colon, simply because it was in the improper anatomical position to release its waste products. And so it's a very common practice now. And thanks to this one brand that have created this big, this whole comical series of marketing videos, it's become more and more widely accepted in the holistic health realm. But you basically just need some kind of stool under your feet that lift your feet up a few inches, and it just tucks the tail under so that your colon can effectively release its waste. And so people who have suffered from constipation or really any digestive issues, really this early morning practice of simply sipping water, scraping the tongue, drinking hot water with lemon or lime. And lime, if you tend to be more of an acidic person, because some people, lemon will hurt your belly. Lemon, if you're, a colder person, you can do lemon, but lemon or lime. And then train your colon with your feet up to relax and release from that position. And if you do that every day, you will have a much healthier digestive system, because Jhattara Agni will come back, will be boosted just by the fact that everything is emptied. So this is first and foremost. So some of these things weren't even on my list today, but clearly they were the most important things to tell you today. So if all you did from what I'm going to tell you today were those things in the morning, your Jhattara Agni will be much, much happier. But the quality of your morning and aligning with that early morning sun rhythm also has to do with the evening, because the evening affects the cleansing purification process overnight. So we said, if you're looking at your circle, the 24-hour clock, right? And there's a horizon line going across it. That early morning, we just talked about some early morning practices when the sun just peaks over the horizon. Okay, we're going to talk about all of these daily practices momentarily, but everything above the horizon line means your energy is moving outward. This is when your eyes are open, you're looking at the world around you, you're talking to the world around you, you're engaging with people, you're working, you're being productive, you're doing. In Ayurvedic terms or Vedic terms, we're more rajasic in our being, meaning our energy is kinetic. We're moving, we're doing, we're serving, we're creating, and we're also consuming. So you're consuming food and external substances. You're consuming through your five senses, right? You're listening to this dialogue about, while you're consuming, you're listening, you're watching, you're digesting information. So you're consuming food and thoughts. You're consuming the thoughts of everything all those tens of thousands of thoughts you have every day that your mind is constantly fabricating. And then you're also consuming the thoughts of the people that you're around and who you're listening to. And so you're consuming. So energy is external so that you can take in fuel and food and consume. And then when the sun sets, now your energy goes from outward to inward. Okay, so sun sets, and as it gets darker and darker and darker, your energy starts withdrawing. And now from a digestive perspective, what's happening is that internal fire goes from consuming external to directing its energies internal and purifying the blood, cleansing the system, going through every single second of the day. You have cells that are dying and being reborn. You know, your hair sheds, your skin cells shed, you know, you exfoliate your skin and there's dead skin cells that come off, right? That's happening in every organ and every tissue system. But when it's inside your body, those cells need to be carried out. So they need to be released. So that's part of the job when your body's sleeping, is to go in and scan all the systems and carry all those cells back to the central channel, which is your gut, and pack it into the colon so the next day it can be released. So there's always byproducts of metabolic waste. There's always dying off cells. That's happening normally and naturally. But then there's also residues from, you know, environmental exposures, environmental residues, toxins, things that, you know, are inevitable part of our being human and on this planet. And then there's also incompatible food combinations of things that you ate through the day, or if you overate, or if you ate too many things together, there's a residue and leftovers that your body can't use. Now that becomes waste. So there's undigested food matter that also needs to be released out of the body. So all these things, as your internal fire goes within, it needs to be kind of sifted through, combed through, the blood is purified. There's also tons of immune functions that are happening, and your body's killing off different things, from getting a splinter to, you know, being exposed to some pathogen that never turns into anything, but your body's killing off all those cells and it needs to be carried out of your body. So the whole blood is filtered, and that fire now has to go internal in order to do all of that, all of those processes. And that needs to happen while you're sleeping. Now, how does it do that optimally? Well, think about all the things I just said. Like, there's so many things that stack in the job of your Jhattara Agni and your internal Agnis, all the Agnis that they need to do while you're sleeping. And if they're overtaxed in any way, well, what happens? The whole system gets backed up, because they can only handle so much, right? We can only handle so much on our plate before things just don't happen. We can't get to those things, right? So our gut fire can only handle so many things. And so one of the biggest culprits is when we eat a heavy meal late at night, and now our stomach is full, like we go to bed with like a full bloated belly, or we snack in the evening, or we just ate in the evening when we weren't really hungry, but we just wanted something to munch on and check out. You know, no matter how healthy and organic or clean or gluten-free it is, it still ends up being adding to the pile of workload that your Agni has to do while you're sleeping. And so if you do that very often, late in the evening, or if you don't eat all day and then you just eat a big meal at night, like late in the dark when the sun has set, well, your sun rhythm governs your digestive enzymes. The digestive enzymes are most active during the sunlight, during the daylight, during the daytime. And so as soon as the sun sets, the digestive enzymes go as well. Typically, there's definitely exceptions to everything, but I'm giving you a foundation right now of things to start contemplating and aligning to. And so, yeah, we eat a big heavy meal in the evening, and now we don't have digestive enzymes to break down. So our gut has to work harder, and it has to bring all of its energy and attention to digesting that meal we ate, instead of purifying all the blood system and doing all those other functions that I just rattled off, right? Immune system and blah, 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 blah. which our gut and our Agni fire is intimately related to our immune system and our immune capability. So, but it can only take on so much. So if we eat big meal late in the evening and sleep like that, and we do that regularly or even once in a while, we'll notice the effect. You wake up the next morning and your body feels stiff and sluggish and tired and more lethargic versus just feeling alert, awake, clear, because you fasted all night when you're supposed to be fasting so that your body could purify. So if we're trying to align our daily habits and create a more calm, nurturing environment for nervous system regulation, for inner healing work, and just more energy and vitality, well, then we need to start looking at this early morning, especially the things I just shared with you, and then also setting up your evening digestively in such a way that makes it easy for your body to do its cleansing process. Does that make sense? Let me check if there's any questions. Aha. I see little fire emojis. Thanks, Pat. Okay, so Marilyn asked, my stress goes to my stomach, but not sure how you can stop that. So yeah, that's a huge thing for sure. Most of us, when we have stress, our stomach tenses, and that creates a slight sympathetic nervous response. So we'll talk more about that for sure. And that was one of the things on my list is stress and tension. So really, the practice there, Marilyn, is to just be more present. So any kind of mindfulness practice, when we're stressed, we feel overwhelmed and we try to do multiple things at once, and none of those become effective. And it actually, doing multiple things at once just fractures your Agni in different places. So the breathing practices we did together at the beginning of this class are really good to bring the blood back to your central channel, back to your digestive system, and promote a sense of calm. And that initiates a healthy vagus response. Literally just breathing into your belly, what we did in the beginning, stretches these stretch receptors in your diaphragm, which stimulates the vagus nerve. So your body comes into more parasympathetic. So doing that belly breathing practice really helps. And then when you notice yourself trying to do too many things at once, you just need to come back to one, start and finish that one, start and finish the next one. And it starts to build a sense of I'm being more present with each thing that I'm doing, including eating. So because our Agni is the fire that is digesting, absorbing, and assimilating not just food and nutrients, but also everything that comes into your senses and your mind and your thoughts, you don't want to try to put all those things together. For example, ideally, you're not eating a meal rushed, when you're in the car listening to the radio and talking on the phone, as an example, or even when you're standing and walking around and trying to just put something in your mouth, you're not going to digest anything that way. My teacher, Dr. Ladd, used to say, if you eat while standing, death stands over your shoulder. Something like that. It was very ominous. And he didn't say things like that. So I was like, whoa, okay, I really must sit when I eat. And it's true, because when you're seated, you're more relaxed. Your blood can actually go to your stomach. It's not going to your legs. Your heart doesn't have to pump blood all the way down to your feet and back up, right? So it's a lot of it, Marilyn, is about presence, breath, and not multitasking. Even when you're eating, engage your five senses with what you're eating instead of on what you're thinking about, instead of, heavy conversation or, scrolling on a device or trying to, think about the next thing that you have to do. Just be present with that meal, even if it's just for 15 minutes, or that you turn off all the other devices and loud things and you just be with that. There's a beautiful book that I actually just recommended a client recently called One Bowl. And it's a very sweet, small book. I haven't read it in probably 15 years. But it just came back in my awareness. And I was like, oh, this would be a really sweet book for you, for this particular woman. But it comes back to my awareness now because I don't think you need to read the book in order to do what I'm saying. But if you want additional, deeper dive into this practice, literally the author of this book suggests, and it's a tiny little simple, quick read, but it keeps it very simple. It's like you have one bowl and your whole job is basically to meditate on this one bowl. And that's your meditation, is the eating. So great question. Thank you for asking. So Anna said, so one shouldn't scrape before drinking water. I scrape, then drink warm water. Okay, this is always a question of, and Jules looks like she has the same question. So this is always a question of people who have, studied some Ayurveda before. And it's a good one. And I'll start by saying it's really personal preference. It's not going to be a huge deal either way, the order. I personally don't like putting cold metal on my tongue before I've drank anything. It just feels ick. It just feels too jarring when I wake up. And then also, we learned in Ayurveda school that the two different layers of sticky, the two different layers on your tongue, and one is good to just replenish so you can drink some. If you drink, so for example, if you don't scrape your tongue, this is why I do it like that. I have one little sip, I scrape, and then I drink warm water. So I drink on both sides of scraping. But if you drink like a whole thing of hot water before you've scraped your tongue, you're probably going to just swallow some of that ama back into you that your body was trying to get rid of. So it's like one little sip just to wet your palate and to have the probiotics back in. Great. And then scrape and then drink your hot water. So I hope that clarifies, Anna. Okay, thanks for your questions. I love your engagement and questions. Okay, let's keep going. She said, thank you. You're welcome. All righty. Speaking of wetting palate. Okay. So those morning practices and then an earlier, lighter dinner are ideal. A lighter dinner earlier would mean have your dinner as close to sunset as possible, as close as possible. I know this is going to vary depending on your family needs and whoever you live with in your household that you eat together. But as a general guideline, endeavor and intend to enjoy your dinner as close to sunset as possible, and let it be lighter, like something like soup is considered a light dinner. Something like salad isn't necessarily considered a light dinner. Most people in this society consider it light, but it's also cold. So something that's like cooked and warm and liquidy, that's in Ayurveda considered light, because it's light on your digestion. It's hydrating, it's easy to digest. It breaks down simply, that kind of thing. Something that's like fibrous, like veggie rich. So some kind of like vegetable based soup is a lovely dinner. It doesn't have to be that light, or just like some roasted veggies or steamed veggies with soups and those types of things. Your body has a greater ability to digest grains in the middle of the day, for example, because that's when you have the sun is the highest, and that's when you have the most digestive capacity. So your body will probably feel a little bit better if you have grains during the daylight hours versus at your evening meal. But this is all going to depend on your body type, on the season, on your personal state of your overall health, whether you need what we call in Ayurveda brunghana or langana type of application or a therapy or pacification. And brunghana means a building, rejuvenative therapy. And langana means a lightening, cleansing, detoxifying type of therapy. So it's kind of like a yin and yang. One is nourishing, grounding, building, increasing tissue, and one is lightening, stripping away, cleansing, and decreasing tissue. And so depending on the person's body type and season and current status of digestion, this is going to determine if I, want to gear myself more towards raw foods and juices and salads and plant-based veggie type things, or if I'm going to gear more towards khicheris and dals and stews and veggie, bean burgers and like grounding, nourishing things, sweets and oils. They're actually building therapies. So, and then there's a way to, some people need a little bit of both, and that's part of a fine balance, but that needs to be assessed in a one-on-one setting. But just to give you kind of like a grander scope of what we're looking at, generally speaking, most of us as a society, even holistically healthy-minded people, we gear more towards like the food, the substance, the nutrient content of it, or the organic status and the superfood status, versus what can my body digest and what are the qualities of this combination and how does that interact with my body. So it's a deeper relationship. It's a more subtle art and science to understanding the interaction between you and these substances of nurturance, right? So it's not enough to say like beets are healthy and kale is healthy, and so I'm just, and moringa powder is healthy and turmeric is healthy, so I'm just going to throw them all in a blender with some ice cubes and drink that as my meal. And it's like, oh, that's the quickest thing that's going to put your fire out. That's the big log. Most people in the holistic health world think, oh, the big log, that must just be meat or cheese or wheat, which those are big logs. We don't really have the digestive capacity as human beings to digest those things well, if at all. And so that is a big log, and that does like annihilate Jhattara Agni to some, depending on how much and all of that, depending on how it's prepared and the sourcing, of course. But for the most part, those are really heavy things. But so are anything cold. So are large quantities, like a blender full of superfood smoothie that has every vegetable in the fridge. That's hard to digest. That's cold and heavy. So when I say qualities, this is what I'm talking about. What are the qualities in the food? Starting to study the subtle qualities of these different foods and how you bring out qualities in a food through the preparation will help it engage with your Agni in a different way, in a more supportive way. And this is why we steam things or lightly cook things, or if we're doing salads, we add a lot of oil because oil is warming. Oil is very heating. So, and we add, spices that are warming and heating. So we massage. Salt is also, salt and sour, they're very heating. So, okay, greens and raw things and greens are cold. They're rough. They're a little harder to digest. Well, then if I massage them with some salt and some lemon or lime juice and it starts to wilt, and then I add a drizzle of oil, well, that actually makes it easier to digest and it makes it not so cold or heavy on my gut. So similarly, in the winter, we like to roast veggies. We think about cinnamon, we think about soups, we think about hot, warm teas. We think about ginger, like, because these are inherently qualities in these foods that help bring balance to our digestive system and to our overall circulation in our body. They help us feel warmer. So way off topic from the list I was going to give you today, but not really off topic. I think these are things for your contemplation. They're a little less practical because I can't give you in just an hour and a half together, to 2 hours together. I can't give you the whole download because there's just too many foods and varieties and nuanced possibilities. But I am considering next month maybe doing a group and leading you guys through a gut reset. So if that is something that you're interested in, please let me know and maybe I'll form that. And then we'll have like a one-on-one component alongside a group component where we can just go much deeper into all of this. So let me know if I get enough interest in it, I can form a small group and we can do that. But for today, let us continue on the things you can all do right away, regardless. So we did morning, we did evening, kind of quick overview. So now let's rattle off some of these 10. So we're looking at your column still. I think I gave you some pairs of things not to do and what to do instead, but now I'll just look at you, go from my official notes, okay? So improper food combining. This is one of the things that destroys Jhattara Agni. So there are a lot of things you can look at with what's proper or improper food combining. There's even within different schools of Ayurveda, different lineages and schools, there's some conflicting belief systems around what's proper combining and what's improper combining. I'm going to break it down for you in a very, very simple way. And that is, if you're an omnivore, 1 protein per meal. Proteins are the heaviest thing for your Jhattara Agni to digest. And so we want, when you put multiple proteins together, it just is more and more taxing, bigger and bigger log, right, on the little flame. So if you're an omnivore, single protein per meal. If you're a vegetarian, also still single protein per meal. If you're a vegetarian that eats eggs, the egg should be the only protein. You shouldn't do egg and cheese, for example, or eggs and beans, for example, or beans and cheese, for example. So these combinations of proteins are very, very taxing to the gut, and pretty much all Ayurveda schools will agree that those food combinations aren't good ones. So we can just strip all of that away and say, okay, 1 protein per meal. If you are a vegan, even still 1 protein per meal is helpful. So whether that's just tempeh or just a bean burger or just a legume, it's a little bit easier to digest. So say if you were going to have like some sauteed tofu or baked tofu and you're going to have a dal soup, for example, those are quite compatible, those are not incompatible, but just know like 1 protein source. If my gut is feeling a little bit off, probably either no protein or very light protein source would be the simplest to digest. And the more proteins I stack in one meal, the harder it's going to be to digest. So there's just one kind of way to look at food combining. And then the second big food combining rule that that all Ayurveda schools pretty much agree on for the most part is fruit. So here's why food combining with fruit specifically throws off your gut, because we'll use a very extreme example just to illustrate the point. So if you eat, say, a mango with a piece of, what do I say? Mango, I'm trying to think of a very, very sugary, simple fruit, and you're eating it at the same time with like a burger or something, or cheese. there's two opposite types of enzymes in your stomach that need to be released to digest those two things. And what happens is when they combine, it curdles. And because they're conflicting, also the amount of time that each one takes to break down in the gut is different. So say the cheese or the meat or whatever it is very fat, has a lot of fat and protein in it. It takes a longer amount of time, where the simple sugars of a ripe mango, for example, they will move, if eaten alone, it'll move out of your stomach in like 20 minutes. So if they're eaten at the same time, now your stomach that valve in your stomach can't open and let only the mango out and keep the rest of the stuff. It can't choose. They're all mixed together. So it's mixing in your stomach. And now the mango gets held back longer. And what happens is the fruit starts to ferment into like a wine. So it creates, so basically what happens with these food combinations is that things ferment and putrefy, and they're held back in parts of your gut longer, and then they start to go rancid in your stomach, and then they're released, and now your body has to do something with all of that. And so it creates gas and bloating because it's kind of fermented and all of that. So fruit, it's very simple. There's certain fruits, by the way, that certain fruits and veggies can go together. So like certain fruits mixed with salad ends up being just fine. Even certain fruits and nuts ends up being fine, depending on the fruit and the nut, and depending on the state of your digestive system. So say, for example, blueberries and strawberries, all berries are less sugar content, and they're just much easier to digest. And they're more compatible with things versus very, very sugary, sweet fruits like ripe mangoes. Melons, for example, all melon should always be eaten alone, 100%. And you shouldn't even mix multiple melons together if you can help it. If you're eating a watermelon, eat only watermelon by itself on an empty stomach meaning at least 2, maybe even 3 hours after your last meal, or at least like a half an hour before your next meal, or eat just cantaloupe, or eat just a honeydew, just the melon. And so melons should always be eaten alone. They shouldn't ever be combined with anything. But certain things, like if you're doing a nice spinach salad and you put some strawberries in it, that's fine, or a little apple in it. Those combinations work. But general speaking, I'm giving you the exceptions, but generally speaking, most fruit is best when eaten alone. And you can eat fruit before a meal. So like you could have that mango 20 minutes before you're going to eat breakfast, a more dense breakfast, or before lunch, because it's simple sugars and it will move through your system, or at least, it'll kind of pre-digest. Those sugars will pre-digest before any other food comes in. So it's very, very simple that way. So improper food combinations destroy the digestive process or deplete Jhattara Agni, and eating fruit alone and eating single proteins in any particular meal help boost. Okay. And then the next one is wrong timing of meals. So coming back to this daily clock, Ayurveda typically says, okay, just space your meals 4 to 6 hours apart. Ideally, when the sun is the highest in the sky is when you have your main meal or meals of the day. So that for some people looks like, 8, 12, and 6, or 7, 12, and 6, right? Or there could be a variation of that if you're not huge on breakfast and you just, do your main meal at lunch and, a dinner at 6. So needless to say, whatever your daily schedule is, just try to space the meals 4 to 6 hours apart. And that's because it takes about 2 hours to digest in each segment of your GI tract. So 2 hours in the stomach, 2 hours in the small intestine, 2 hours in the colon. So that's 6 hours. So if you eat every 2 hours, for example, food leaves your stomach, it goes into the small intestine. Now your Agni is divided. Now you eat again. Now there's food in your stomach trying to be digested and in your small intestine, and they both have half the capacity and energy to do it. So try to space it out. Give your gut time. Faster digestive types, it'll take like an hour and a half or so. So you eat, and then in each section, so it's like 4 hours until the food is completely digested into the distal part of the colon. So 4 to 6 hours is the general rule. And there's so much more I can say on this, but let's just leave it at that for you to try it on, experiment with these things in your own daily routine, see how your body reacts. If you have any kind of bloating, distension, constipation, spacing your meals apart is going to greatly help those things. Okay, next one. Eating when you're not hungry kills Agni. So when you don't have an appetite, it means you don't have digestive enzymes available. So if you eat and your stomach doesn't have that genuine, hollow, empty, rumbly feeling, the food's not going to be fully digested. So instead, if you're not sure if you have true hunger, when you like, this is especially for in between your meal times. If you're like, oh, but I'm still hungry, or 2 hours later, I'm still hungry. There's actually a false hunger cue that happens when that valve in your stomach opens to release food from your stomach into your small intestine. For a few minutes, for a little while, you'll feel it, and you'll be like, ooh, that feels like a hollow hunger. It's a false hunger cue because your stomach just emptied by that previous bolus of food leaving. So it's not true hunger, it's false hunger. So what you do instead, boil some water, have a cup of herbal tea, have a little water with a squeeze of lime in it, go for a walk, do some deep breathing, get engaged with something else. And if you forget about food, then it was a false hunger cue. Or your body was just dehydrated, because a lot of our false hunger cues come because we're thirsty. So you drink some water, some warm water that's like satiating, and you move your body. And if that satiates, then it was not, then you won't eat when you're not hungry. Okay, so makes sense. Eating when you're not hungry destroys. Drinking hot water with lime or lemon instead, going for a walk, helps boost. Okay, next one is stopping. Okay, so the next one that destroys your digestive system is stopping once you're stuffed. So most people eat to their full capacity, to their stomachs stretched and distended. I know my whole family prides themselves on that. It's like, oh yeah, I feel so satisfied. I feel like I could fall asleep right now. That's like, I don't know if that's a Puerto Rican thing or an American thing, but that's my family. They just all pride themselves on like just that distended feeling of fullness. Does any of your families do that too? It's so funny, but it's also like a weird marker in our culture of like getting your money's worth, right? Like it's like the buffet culture. Like I really got my money's worth because I really ate to full capacity. But when you eat to that capacity, it's like when you overstuff the laundry machine and your clothes don't get fully washed because there's no room for churning. Right? So like there needs to be space in your stomach. So there's these little ripples in your stomach that that have the capacity, like an accordion, to stretch. And so when we stretch it over time, the stomach actually gets bigger. It grows bigger and bigger. But if we continually stretch it and fill it, it grows bigger because it needs more space, but then you keep filling it all the way, right? And now we're just giving our body too much intake, and it can't properly release the waste. And it ends up building up over time. So to counter that, eat slower, chew thoroughly, and stop when you're just satisfied before you're full. So there should still be a feeling of lightness in your belly. You should feel like, I could eat more because I could fit more, but I'm not going to, because I'm actually satisfied. There's more where that came from. That's the mentality. My teacher, Dr. Ladd, used to say, so your stomach is like the size of your little finger stretched out to your thumb. That's like the natural. So if you held that to your abdomen, that's like the size of your stomach. Like roughly it's this size, like the organ is like this size. So they would say you eat how much can fit in your two hands, which is why it comes back to the one bowl method. But in this country, at least, we got these dinner plates that are like 3 times the size of my head. And then they, they're just like piled. And so we tend to just eat what's in front of us because it's there and it tastes good or whatever, or other people that. So instead we try to be mindful. And so Dr. Ladd would say your stomach should be 1/3 salt, have 1/3 of it full of solid, 1/3 with liquid, and then 1/3 empty. And so that kind of depends on, you don't want to drink too much when you're eating, but it could be like the hydration in the vegetables, the broth of the soup, whatever it is. There's a little bit of liquid, a little bit of solid food, and there's plenty of space for it to churn. And obviously you can't measure a third, but it's a subjective feeling. So you should still feel a sense of lightness in your belly when you're done eating. Okay, next one we already talked about. So the digestion destroyer is cold food and drink, ice cubes, cold. And the digestive booster is warm and hot. So this includes temperature as well as spices and healthy oils are warming. The next one, which we also talked about too, thanks to Marilyn's question, stress and tension both decrease the digestive fire, and instead mindfulness, meditation, breath, stop rushing, presence. These are all boosting the digestive fire. The next one we kind of talked about too, the microbiome a little bit. So I wrote wrong bugs in my notes. So that means when we overeat, when we eat the wrong things, unseasonal, when we eat really heavy, hard to digest foods, when we eat lots of sugars and starches, like simple sugars, starches, that kind of thing, we know that we're feeding the bad bugs, right? The microbes in our gut that are not supportive to our system. And then on the other hand, when we're eating mindfully, when we're only eating what we can digest, when we're eating only when we're hungry, when we are eating organic or homegrown foods, and a little bit of raw foods in the diet or lightly cooked foods, these preserve the enzymes, and or like healthy organic foods or homegrown foods in good soil actually give you all these digestive probiotics and enzymes. And so we don't need to micromanage the, taking all kinds of supplements and probiotics. We just need to have a healthy relationship with our gut and not overtax our gut. And our microbiome comes back into balance on its own. Great news. It does. And then also the stress and tension levels, literally our thoughts and our moods and what we subject ourselves to with our senses feeds the good bugs or the bad bugs. So the music you engage with, they're sentient beings that are living and supporting or depleting your system. And so these all come into play on the subtle energetic levels of gut. So the digestive destroyer is feeding the bad bugs, and the booster is feeding the good bugs. There's a lot of different processes to do that, but actually doing a gut reset and just the practice of self-love really supports the microbiome, and resets, kind of helps get rid of the unsupportive bad bugs, if you will, and it supports the good ones to flourish, the ones that are actually supportive. And those good bugs in your body, by the way, are digesting your food, and their byproducts, meaning the waste products, the poop of these bugs, are vitamins. So you want the good ones. So the vitamins aren't only, try not to get overly caught up in like micronutrients and like the heady ideas of what's in different foods, because the byproduct of self-care practice, of making healthy food choices, of all the things that we're talking about in this class, is actually helping to feed these good microbes, including healthy oils, especially ghee. If you're not a complete vegan, if you eat refined ghee, so like in our household, we're vegan, but we call ourselves geegan because we're vegan except for ghee. Because ghee is just like the purest essence of divine mother nature. And it is like the most, on so many levels, it's a panacea of a lot of different health properties, but it's also the thing that feeds all of the good microbes. It's like the best oil that feeds all of the microbes along your gut. It supports healthy bowel movements. It supports a calm nervous system. It's the only oil that has, in Ayurveda, it has what's called a prabhav, which means it's this special magical effect that is an exception to the rule of anything of its kind. So the prabhav of ghee, where most oils, they are heavy and dense and they decrease the digestive fire, ghee is the only one that encourages and boosts the digestive fire while also being an oil and lubricating and nourishing and supporting the brain, and it also feeds the healthy microbes in your gut. So just phenomenal. How did I get on that topic? Was I talking? Oh, just all the bugs. So Geegan, microbiome. I went on a tangent, but I'm glad that we got to talk a little bit about ghee because it's wonderful. Okay, next one. Next one is Digestive Destroyer, emotional eating. This is also just falls into the same category. This is why I kind of ruled this one out. I was like, we can do 8 instead of 10 because I kind of already covered this. But emotional eating would be eating when you're not hungry and eating for something other than true hunger and the needs of the body's nourishment. So the booster to the digestion is that there's a deeper mechanism. Actually, it wouldn't, I'm glad we left this one in because this is really the foundation and the crux of my whole work as an Ayurvedic practitioner, is to support the deeper resolution of past pains. Because like I said earlier, these imprints and traumas that we've had, if they haven't been properly digested on the energetic level or reprocessed in a healthy way to the point where you're no longer triggered or emotionally disturbed by the thought of negative things that have happened in the past to you, then they're taking up bandwidth of your Agni and your digestive capacity. So a lot of times if there's unresolved stuff in emotions or in the nervous system, over time, it'll start to deplete the digestive fire. It'll create food sensitivities and inability to digest many foods, inability to enjoy food, and then all of the symptoms that we talked about earlier, digestive and otherwise. But digestion is also the key to preventing all the pathologies, almost all of the pathologies in the body. And so the resolution of past pains and reestablishing a relationship to past circumstances, but doing that through the subconscious mind, like really resolving and healing past pain from the subconscious and from the somatic experience, is a very important part of the work that I do therapeutically, and also would be the most important energetic aspect of boosting Agni. So that kind of ties into emotional eating, because when these things go unresolved, not only do they deplete the Agni, but they also get us into these self-sabotage behaviors, because it's like, I know I don't have true hunger, but I still must eat this thing. And then we're eating when we're not hungry, and then we're gaining weight or having, irritation in indigestion in some way, and that's contributing to further health challenges. And sometimes you're aware of it and sometimes you're not aware of it. But yeah, but if there's a self-sabotage part, then there's something to be reprocessed and looked at in that way. Okay, so just last ones, dehydration. So dehydration is a digestive destroyer. So overall, your cells need water, need to be hydrated. Your gut needs to be hydrated in order for elimination to be happening. Think sticky clogged pipes, nothing's moving through there, right? So we need warm water to be consistently going through there, warm, hydrating water to be consistently absorbed. And all those tissues need to be soft, lubricated, and supple for everything to work properly. And then the other thing too is that your stomach lining, for example, if you're dehydrated, your stomach lining becomes dehydrated, and there are enzymes and digestive factors that are released out of the lining of the stomach that help you digest. And so even if you just drink like 8 ounces of warm, like just warm water, like 15 minutes before your meal, this will hydrate the stomach lining and help release enzymes, acids, hydrochloric acid, gastric intrinsic factor into your stomach and prepare that space to receive food. And if that doesn't happen and if there's dehydration, then those enzymes can't be released because they need to be released in fluid. So dehydration, big problem, big depleter for Agni, but also over drinking. Over drinking can also kind of water down your digestive enzymes. So ideally you drink before your meals and in between meals. You don't want to drink a ton of water with a meal, and most definitely not after your meal, because it kind of will just fill up your stomach and kind of dilute some of your digestive enzymes. But you can trust your cues, usually drinking a little bit, sipping a little bit, especially if the meal doesn't have a lot of hydration in it. Sipping some hot water during your meal is great. But overall, think before meals, drink, 8 to 12 ounces of water or warm water a little bit before the meal, and then just strive to drink more water during the day. Like I said, in the morning, for sure, to support bowel movements moving and to just hydrate your system for the day is great. All right, and then the last one for today is The digestive destroyer would be eating the wrong foods for your body type or for the season at hand, or your gut type. So body type, gut type, and season. So wrong foods for body type, gut type, and season. So this just comes back to the digestion booster would be learn to understand your body type, your unique gut type, your metabolic type, right? And understand how your unique entity that is you relates to the environment around you that's ever changing, and how that changes through various like hormonal seasons of life, as well as external seasons of nature. The things that we crave in the winter, very different from the summer, are different from the fall and the spring. So starting to understand some of those nuances is really helpful. And when we eat out of alignment in those ways, it depletes our Agni. And when we eat in alignment with those things, it gives us more of a boost and radiant health and energy, better sleep at night, and really lays this foundation for the repatterning of the nervous system as well. So obviously this is a common, the theme and conversation of this group monthly. So it all comes back to that. It all comes back to that deeper embodiment of the peace that we're after, the connection to our true self, the harmonious relationships that we want to be having with our family, our friends, our communities, our work, and the greater good of humanity. These are all things that we want, and we want a healthy, easeful body to be able to engage in all of those things. So I hope that I know this was like a lot more content than we usually do in a typical session, but you guys really stuck with it. And I hope that it was really valuable for you. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And, look at the list that you jotted down. You can re-listen to these recordings as well. And just pick one thing, no more than 2 things that you think like, oh, wow, that really stood out to me as she was talking. That feels like really important. I haven't been doing that thing, or I've been doing this one thing that might be destroying my gut. So let me just make one shift, and let me just make that one shift and do it every day. So just, consider that. And then feel free to write to me at hello@alicialyndiaz.com, my email address. I'll put it in the chat and I'll say it once more, hello@alicialyndiaz.com. And if you are interested in doing a gut reset in a small group, let me know. And if I get enough of you that are interested, we'll just put a little group together and we'll go through it all like in much more thorough detail over the course of 3 weeks. I like 21 days for gut reset, because then we do a bunch of education the first week and preparation. And then that middle week, we actually will do a little bit of the reset proper. And then the last week is like integration and coming back into, our regular flow of integrating all the things we learned into our regular daily lives. So, and it's great doing those types of things in community. So if that's something that interests you, watch a recording of this, you can say it below the video in the comments, or just email me hello@alicialyndiaz.com. And then I will also send out this replay to you via email. If you're on this call live, you're already connected to me via email. And if you're watching this as a recording, like on YouTube, and you want to be advised of our next live session and also get the recordings, then you can go to my website, alicialyndiaz.com, and then click the button. The button says trauma healing or workshops. And then that's just a registration page. And every month we have a new topic that's all around nervous system regulation, Ayurvedic psychology, and just overall Ayurvedic holistic living as it relates to being sensitive beings in a crazy world. So Kumari said that was amazing. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Anna said thank you. And Jules said thank you so much. Loved it. Really wonderful. Glad I could join live from the UK. Yes, so glad you could join us, love. All right, we'll sing one little closing prayer together and sign off. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and presence. And may the wisdom of Ayurveda be glorified in your life through your actions and your self-care of your sweet body temple that you've been gifted in this life. So lots of love to you all. And we send these prayers out to the greater good of all life and all beings. So inhale with me, we'll chant Om together, and then Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, Om Shanti. Exhale all the air out, deep full breath in, exhaling with Om. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, everybody. I bow to you all. Namaste. Namaste, Anna. Thank you, Pat. Bye, Jules. Take care.